Hello and welcome everybody to this exciting match, a rematch actually between Hans Niemann and Daniil Dubov. It's taking place in Moscow right now, and I'm here besides Felix. I'm so happy, Felix, that you were able to join me and that we are able to join this new platform, ENDGAME.AI, and see the new chess revolution, Felix.
Yeah, it's amazing to be here, especially with you, Laura. We've been commenting some events in the past together, and it was always great fun. And today we have the amazing encounter between Hans Niemann and Daniil Dubov with the blitz match. Last time I was watching the match with popcorn on my couch, and it was just amazing. And today we're both of us are here and can watch that live and comment it together. So it's going to be super exciting. As you also mentioned, there is the new platform which has only launched today, ENDGAME.AI. So definitely everyone check it out. I think there are only 10,000 people who are getting accepted right now. So It's definitely something to check out right away.
Exactly. Yeah, this platform, it's absolutely new. It was, like you said, Felix launched today. And yes, please join the waitlist if you want to join the chat, comment on the match, or maybe ask some questions even to us. So yeah, I am actually very excited to see what this new platform will bring today and tomorrow, and of course in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Hans is always cooking with new stuff, and it's always great to see what he has planned. He has already launched his own school. I've been, his own chess school on his own website. I've been following all of that closely, and yeah, super excited to see what's coming there. Definitely, we're in for a surprise.
No, like you said, chess is evolving, thankfully, it's going into a right direction. And of course, these matches that Hans is doing and organizing, I think it's such a great platform, to speak out and to be able to prove himself that he can play great blitz and great chess in general. I've been actually very impressed with his chess recently. He proved me that he's actually an amazing chess player and deserves the title of a grandmaster for sure.
Yeah, me too, absolutely. I mean, what's always been sort of Hans' main strength, in my opinion, I first got to know him at youth tournaments, and always his sort of self-confidence was really striking, because already when he was younger, like 24, 2500, he was so sure that he's going to become a top grandmaster, and people were laughing at him. This is not a secret or anything, because of the things he said, that he will become a top grandmaster. And well, look at where he is now. He has left all those people behind and actually managed to do the things which he has said to do. So this is definitely something which even his biggest rivals can really look up to.
Exactly. Like you said, his mindset is also amazing. Like if we talk about the previous match between Dubov and Niemann that took place, I think in March, if I'm correct, it was, I think, one of the most watched matches in general between like Hans and his opponents. At least, like you said, you watched with popcorn as well, me as well. It was extremely exciting. I think at some point, Hans was down like 4 or 5 games even.
Yeah.
And then just won 4 games in a row, something like that. But the match ended just in the last round, where Dubov took a win, and then the match ended with 9.5 against 8.5, if I'm correct, Felix.
Yeah, it was super close. I still remember the last game. It was just so, an unbelievable match to watch, because both of the players were playing so well. And Dubov in the last game, I still remember he was able to grind one end game with one idea in the end, which was just amazing. Like the players were finding moves and moves with only seconds on the clock. It was really a big show, and I think we're going to be in for something similar today as well. Really excited.
Like you said, Endgame, maybe that was the inspiration for this new platform that Hans launched today. And yes, I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lot of endgames to see today, but also a lot of tactics. Let's talk about the format. There are 18 games. So so today 9 and tomorrow 9. It's going to be very exciting because there are blitz games. 3 minutes plus 2 seconds for the whole game. And this is not like, when you play with your mouse on your computer, on your laptop. This is a real over the board game where pieces might be flying all over the board.
Yeah.
And off the board as well.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Blitz is generally one of the most exciting formats to watch and also to commentate. And this format is specifically cool because, the players are sort of playing game after game without too much of a break. So it's just very nice to watch. You have, as we mentioned before, you have 2 hours of pure popcorn material and not many breaks in between. So it's generally a pretty cool format, I would say, overall. And as you've already mentioned, today are 9 games and tomorrow are the next 9 games.
Yeah, I am actually very excited. I think Blitz might be my favorite format, maybe not to play, but to watch. Because, of course, I hate making blunders. Like, it's my biggest weakness. When I make a blunder, I get very upset sometimes for unknown reasons. But to commentate and to watch, I think Blitz is the most exciting format to follow. Would you agree?
Yeah. Absolutely. It also reminds me of this one legendary interview which Dubov once gave when he was asked about like if he has a favorite time control. And I still remember that he said, with Blitz, it's sort of that you don't really care. You can do whatever you want. You can party all night. It doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, it's pure luck. And at the end of the day, who is faster in the end and who sees those tactics a bit faster. But the thing was about Rapid, which he said you don't really know what to do because in classical, you need to be serious. You need to, have a good night's sleep, have a good night's rest. But in Rapid, it was never so easy for him to decide. And now we can see him here. That interview is absolutely legendary. Everyone has to check it out for sure.
Yes, and actually on the screen you can already see the 2 players sitting down, Dubov with white pieces versus Niemann with black pieces. The playing hall, it looks stunning. Everything is gold.
Beautiful, yeah.
They have a lot of space. It's Moscow in general. It's a very beautiful city, and I'm so glad they're investing a lot in this chess match. And look at those players. They actually had a slight conversation.
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised by that, if I can say that, due to the kind of rivalry which the players had. Yeah. But I guess that their matches are sort of bringing them together, perhaps, and that's a good thing, which we can see right here. But of course, at the end of the day, those 2 players are gonna fight it out, and no one of them wants to give their opponent an easy day today and as well as tomorrow.
Yes, you're absolutely right, and the rivalry between them it's huge, especially because of the previous match. And I remember watching it, and I was kind of surprised that the game finished. They didn't say a word. They just changed the seats. They just both stood up and just changed their location. And I was like, oh, like, don't you usually like have a conversation about the game after? I think it's so natural between chess players to do that. Except, if you're just like, I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, I guess the format also makes it more difficult here. If they really play game after game, then there's not really much time to discuss the things. Also, especially about the opening. If you play a match where you have many games in a row, then you don't really want to discuss the opening that much, just not to give the opponent any information. And we see a kickoff. D4 played by Dubov.
Okay.
Is he gonna go for his famous Catalan?
Yeah,
and he is.
Okay, yeah. I'm so excited for that because knight d2 one. Okay.
Knight d2, yeah.
That's very interesting. Bishop d2, of course, main one. So, but Hans blitzing out, so he's prepared for this knight d2. This has to be.
And queen c8, yeah. Until knight e5, it's still sort of theory. Queen c8, I think, is kind of a more rare move, but it does make a lot of sense, just protecting the bishop on b7.
Exactly.
Knight f3 on the board.
So now with black pieces, I would love to play c5 somehow, but now bishop on b4 is misplaced. So I really like this idea with knight d2 and now knight f3. Do we assume bishop e7 or bishop d6 now?
Yeah, I think going back with the bishop at some point is going to make a lot of sense, just not to run into a3. Could also think about taking on c4 at some moment, just to get rid of this pressure and open up the diagonal for the bishop on b7.
Yeah, I agree, but also rook c1 is coming very quickly, and then look at this c7 pawn. It
Yeah,
can be a big weakness if black doesn't somehow manage to play c5 or even move the queen from c8. It can get messy.
yeah, and it does look a little bit more pleasant for white, at least practically speaking, at the
Yeah.
moment, just because all of the pieces are developed nicely.
I agree, and also this 95, this usually isn't a great move in these Catalans. Well, okay, it depends, but of course this is very specific position.
Yeah,
I kind of would consider taking with a pawn on e5, but
definitely, yeah.
without
Just,
time, yeah, he just decided to quickly take with the bishop.
yeah, he also, I guess he wants to keep the structure intact. Whenever you take on e5 with the pawn, you do have the doubled pawns as well. And it looks like DANIIL is approaching the game like very, very solidly today, which, yeah, you're not really expecting of him in his usual chess style.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually on our platform endgame.ai/watch, and I can actually see that besides our broadcast, where you can see both players, the game, the score, there's also evaluation possibility on the site. So apparently, after e takes d5, so what is the position? Yeah, so somehow white is clearly better, almost plus one.
Yeah, that's kind of a high evaluation. I wasn't expecting
Yeah,
that
yeah, exactly.
because black's position is still very solid. But
No, I just wanted to see the platform because it's absolutely new, so novelties are going to happen all the time. Um, but like you said, it's just more pleasant for white. Maybe not plus one, like you said. It's a
yeah,
bit too much.
but it's great that you mentioned the website. I also just had a look, and I really love the overall design so far. Like you can see the live stream, of course, with the players, and next to that you see the board with the evaluation bar, and F6 played by Hans Niemann.
Ooh, okay. So I guess what happens after knight c6? Does he want to play bishop c6 and in opposite
Yeah,
colored
I
bishop?
was also wondering that what would happen after knight c6. He goes for knight d3,
Yeah,
which
normal.
I think will also mean that DANIIL is going to end up a pawn up
Yes.
after he takes on e6.
Yes. And that explains also the evaluation. Of course, f6, Hans must have felt that he was struggling a bit, so he decided to exchange this bishop from b7, which can be a weak piece, but now we have an endgame without the queens.
Yeah, and an endgame with a healthy pawn up for white. So this is definitely looking promising for Daniil Dubov.
Well, yeah, I mean, now, of course, there are double pawns on the b file, but what Daniel did, it's of course amazing. He has both rooks on the open or semi-open files. And now it's just a matter of time or strategy. How will he reroute his pieces?
Yeah, I love king f3, just activating the king in the endgame. And also f5 is a nice move because I would say that white otherwise would intend to gain space himself with g4 later on. But Hans does grab that space immediately by going f5. And it's not going to be such an easy conversion, I believe, for white.
Exactly.
But
yeah, g5 also on the board. He's
yeah.
Taking space. I also was wondering what happens if I play a4 myself with black pieces, opening the a file.
Yeah, that would also be one idea, just to activate the rook on a8. At some moment, that could definitely happen as well. a4,
yeah, because then if you play b4, I go a3. But so I think at some point you just have to take. And like you said, this is not going to be an easy conversion. This bishop, even though it doesn't do much, it protects the crucial pawn on c7.
Absolutely, yeah. And if white could exchange that bishop with the knight, that would be good news, but it's not going to be easy to do. So maybe you could go knight e5, knight c4 at some moment, but...
Yeah, exactly. I want to move this knight, even though knight on d3 is great. I somehow want to do something with it. I even considered before Hans played g5 to go knight f4 myself. but again, it wouldn't change much, I think.
Yeah.
So
We see h3 stopping g4 at the moment. And Hans is now going for your idea with a4.
a4 on the board. Yes, so the position is going to be opened. And what's the time? Hans has 30 seconds and DANIIL now down to 45 seconds.
Yeah, and taking on a4, rook takes a4 on the board.
Oh, now it's going to get very exciting. We're going to the time trouble stage.
Both players less than a minute, approaching 30 seconds. Daniil Dubov still looking promising for white.
It does, but yeah, what's okay, knight c5.
Knight c5, yeah. So going into the rook endgame.
Very nice kind of tactical idea, but yes, like you said, now we're just exchanging the piece. What you wanted to do before, Felix, to exchange the knight for bishop. Yeah. We're getting that, but rook is now active, yeah, rook b4.
Yeah, and lots of pawns have been exchanged now, so that's usually what makes life easier for the defending side in an endgame, to exchange as many pawns as possible. But also white's rooks can become quite active. Here we see rook d1 pressuring the pawn on d6, rook d2, and h5.
Oh yeah, this... So it is better to keep the two rooks, Felix, right? On the board as white.
Yeah, definitely. That's a great point you made. Because often in endgames, which with one pair of rooks would be quite drawish, with two rooks on the board, for the attacking side, it can be much different and much more difficult to defend.
Exactly. Yeah, you're right. And now we have some drama. What is this h4?
H4, yeah, sacrificing another pawn.
But rook h7.
But f4, keeping the pawn on h4.
Now we're 2 pawns up, Felix.
2 pawns up, yeah.
Now this is, I think, going to be an easier conversion. Right?
Yeah, pawn on d6 is also going to drop. Only question is if rook b3, what a nice move, going after the pawn on e3.
Beautiful.
Rook e2, defending it, and rook e7.
So once again. Losing the a3 pawn. Oh, this can be a draw.
Rook e4.
Wait, he didn't take it? Oh, okay.
Okay. Now he takes it, but now after king g5...
King is too far, yeah?
Also pawn on h6 is running, and he goes for it, h6 on the board.
No, this looks devastating
d5,
now.
and he can go h7, and he does it. And Hans resigns, yeah, because if black captures on h7, then rook to a7 is going to pick up the rook on h7.
Wow. Okay, so this was actually a very nice conversion at the end, even though Hans found great moves. I don't know why didn't he take e3 pawn immediately. It's something I wonder about, because he just allowed white to play king h4 without a tempo. Yeah,
I'm also not sure about that one, but at the end of the day, the players are only on seconds, and
yes, you're right.
anything can happen. Like often, if I look at my own games and then look back, I was thinking like, what the hell am I doing there? But at the end of the day, if you're only on seconds, so many things can go on in your mind. You have no idea how often that happens to me. Like I'm in a draw on rook endgame, and then suddenly I'm lost, and I'm just like, what do you mean? How did that happen? And exactly, this is how it happens in the blitz games. But very nice conversion by Daniil. Maybe even nicer opening advantage. I don't know how he achieved it, but he did. Yeah, it looked like Hans was pretty well prepared with this line with queen c8, but yeah, Daniil apparently then played a very logical continuation, but a very nasty one for black to handle. And it was quite difficult for Hans to equalize after the opening. Yeah, exactly. I don't know where it went wrong. Like Hans, I think already was thinking for knight d7, where we were considering to maybe move the bishop on d6 or e7, or maybe was knight e5 the mistake? Was it just simplifying too quickly? Yeah, taking on a5 perhaps, but the position was already looking quite pleasant for white. Difficult, and really looking forward to seeing what the players are also going to change with their openings. When the match is progressing, usually you kind of take notes of what went wrong in your previous games. Yeah. And that's also what I loved from the previous match, that you see sort of the similar openings being repeated in the match, but the players making some small adjustments in the openings.
Yeah, and actually now that I was wondering what went wrong, already knight d7 was not a great move.
Wow, such a logical move though.
Such a logical move, but already not great. However, I think what was even worse than that was to play then knight d7 again. When he took knight e5, bishop e5, and knight d7 was too passive. Felix, you're right. Taking on c4 was the best move.
Already earlier, right? Like
yes,
yeah.
already move 10, 11,
After
12.
knight f3, yeah. Taking on c4 did look logical because in the game what we saw, then white was able to capture on d5, and then black didn't really have a comfortable way of recapturing. So
exactly. Yeah, it was very unpleasant already from the start. So yeah, I'm actually very, very excited to oh, okay, the game has already started. I'm sorry, I didn't
yeah, me neither.
I was so focused on this previous game that I missed the start. So, but however, e4, e5, I think we've seen this in the previous match. Hans staying in his Italian style. What do you think? What's happening? Black hasn't castled yet. Wait.
Yeah, this is quite a modern line, which people started playing recently. Black gives up the bishop pair quite early here with bishop g4, and then black took on f3, which, I was talking to Peter Lecco once in a tournament in Weikanzee, where I was as a second, and Peter was also there, and he was telling me about if you would have played like that back in the day, people would just go crazy because you just cannot give up your bishop pair as early as this, but the line holds up with the computers, and also practically there were many games, and black has pretty good results here, and we see a long castle on the board.
So this is exciting now. I love long castle, short castle dynamics, even though, yeah, without white squared bishops, but we don't need it, Felix. Now we're attacking with black pieces. How are we going to do this?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Because are we going g5 maybe?
The problem is with g5 now you're actually missing the light squared bishop because the square in f5 is going to be very weak. And I just have to note that I think I never saw an Italian with opposite color, with opposite side castling.
Wow. Yeah, I actually, now that I think about it, it doesn't happen often. I sometimes play h6 g5 Italian, just for fun. I think in some lines there it happens.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
But this is not this type of Italian. This is completely different.
Yeah, it's quite a rare guest, I would say. In general, after e4, e5, we don't really see black castling queenside that often.
But I'm so excited that DANIIL decided to do it. However, if we look at the time, I think Hans is still in somehow his prep idea, while DANIIL is slightly struggling now.
Yeah, DANIIL already spent some time, and c4, a nice move by Hans, just trying to open up the diagonal for the bishop on a2.
Yes.
And that's also why we see d4, keeping it closed. And all of a sudden, we are in some sort of Benoni structure out of the Italian.
Wow. Yeah. However, in the Benoni structures, again, you do not have a long castle, at least not that I know of. So again, this is very, very dramatic before, of course, attacking. However, now is the question, who's going to be the first one to give a checkmate?
That's the question.
C5,
bishop d6, rerouting the bishop to c7. And yeah, black also has ideas with f5, and that might be coming pretty soon, actually.
Exactly. Somehow, as white, I'm missing a knight somewhere, to put it on a nice square like c4 or d5. With just the bishop pair, this bishop on d2 seems a bit odd right now. Yeah, how are we going to stop f5 from happening? Or maybe it's not such a big threat. Can I just play... I wanted to say rook c1.
I like the move c6 here. But yeah, he goes for rook e1. I thought if c6 is just opening up the queen side immediately, because now if f5, I was even thinking black could go for e4 here.
Oh, you want to go for e4, and after takes, you want to take with the queen, or?
Well, that's of course the question. Probably it doesn't work just yet.
Yeah.
But he goes for rook f8, and yeah, at some moment I would be a bit scared. But rook c1, yeah. So now he's finally intending to go c6, and we see e4 on the board.
Your idea on the board. Now, of course, we have to take queen e4,
Yeah, but
I
I'm not
think.
sure. Also, bishop takes e6 first could be considered, but he takes and now knight f4.
Oof, okay. Knight h3 could be an idea, of course, in the future now for black. So as white, I'm slightly scared. Also, d3 is a big threat almost.
Yeah, d3 and then knight e2.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that it's probably not completely correct what Daniel is
Yeah.
doing, but practically speaking, it's
Yeah.
quite difficult for white. And I love bishop e6 offering the trade, which I don't think Daniel is going to go for.
Yeah, you don't think, yeah, okay, I don't need to do it. Maybe just scare white a bit more with some queen g7, yeah?
Yeah,
Why not?
just the knight on f4 looks quite strong, and it would be kind of a shame to give it up.
However, if I decide to do it, is my d pawn strong enough to make something out of the game? Probably not, yeah, because of this d2 bishop.
Yeah, the bishop on d2 is blockading it for now, so it's probably not going anywhere. And queen a4 on the board. I think a
Wow.
great practical decision, because keeping the knight on f4 is always gonna make the life for white more difficult.
Wow, yeah. This is I'm trying to see also the evaluation, and it's going up and down. Of course, this game is so crazy. But Queen A3 by Daniil, I'm sorry, this looks weird to play, doesn't it?
Well, he is trying to regain the material, but he's also opening the a file, which might become a target for white after rook a1, doubling on the a file. And Hans goes for b5, perhaps trying to open up the queen side with b6.
Yeah, or c6, you know. Even bishop f3 in the future is something I would love to play, but I think knight h3 is something that is stopping it from happening.
Yeah, but bishop f3
However,
is a nice idea. If bishop f3 now, is there? It's played. Knight takes h3 has to be played.
Okay.
But
So what now?
I wonder if bishop f3 was maybe a little bit too early.
I think it was too early at this point, because now rook f3 is going to come and queen takes d2, right?
Yeah, still white is an exchange up there. So if now white captures on h3, rook takes f3, queen takes f3, queen takes d2.
It's going to happen, yeah.
It's going to happen now. Still an exchange up for white.
Yeah, but now king is slightly open. Nothing too dramatic in my opinion, but how are we continuing? Do we go c6, b6, first rook d1? Okay.
First rook d1, queen g5 check on the board, and king to f1. Because if the king would go to h1, then you always have to watch out for queen h2 mating ideas.
Yes, very, very nice spot. I like the king on f1, but now I see Hans slightly struggling how to continue. b6, c6. He almost pushed c6, the last move.
Yeah, it's both look quite promising. b6 would be nicer because it also opens up the king sort of by force.
Yeah, but it also opens the black bishop.
d3 on the board. Ooh. White cannot take. Rook d2.
Oof, no. Now we have some drama. Bishop g3 can be also.
But 4 seconds for Daniil Dubov. Bishop f4. Rook e7. And also, wow.
Because there was checkmate on b7. Wow.
And he resigns because the rook on f8 is hanging.
Wow. Okay.
What a game.
That was so thrilling. This is exactly what we're here for. That was so amazing.
Absolutely, yeah. So Hans has managed to level the score. Currently 1-1. Both players have won their white games.
Wow, yes. So white dominating so far, but wow, even though I missed the prep, I'm sure it was a great prep given the time on the board. But this rook e7, just threatening queen b7, it's so easy to blunder in this type of positions.
Yeah.
When you have like 10-15 seconds on the board, it's but I loved it. I love these thrillers. Yeah, this was literally a thriller from start till the end.
Yeah, it's so exciting to watch these two players fight it out. Both players such an interesting style as well. Like you can always, you never know what to expect from their games. Just from the opening stage on, you see so much creativity and interesting ideas just from the start.
Exactly. Just these opening ideas are also to be studied. I'm so excited what Daniel is going to show now with white pieces again. Is it going to be the Catalan again? I guess so, because it brought him a win. But my heart is beating so fast. This is so exciting. I wanted to ask you, like, how would you describe a chess style of each player?
Oof, that's a great question. I always saw DANIIL Dubov as the super creative player, absolutely amazing at attacking chess, aggressive chess. And Hans, I think, in the meantime, has become more of a strategical positional player. Especially, I've studied many of his games in the Italian defense, and his understanding there is just on the absolute top.
Okay, yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I think what you said is correct. And also the third game of today has started, and we have slot exchange sloje, if I'm correct. If that's a real English word, that's how we say it in Slovenian, at least.
Yeah, the exchange Slav a6 on the board and queen b3. Looks like it caught Hans by surprise.
Yeah.
A7.
Oh, is that too soon already?
It's quite a typical idea usually, just protecting the pawn on b7, and on the next move, black wants to develop the bishop to either f5 or g4. But it does look a little bit awkward in many cases as well.
Exactly, yeah. But like you said, it's a very typical idea. I guess he didn't want to go, of course, e6, because then he locks his c8 bishop. But that's something that you really don't want to do when you play against the exchange Slav. So now he kind of wants to go bishop f5 or bishop g4 with black pieces to activate this bishop.
Absolutely, yeah. But on the other hand, after bishop g4, for example, white could think about going knight e5. So Hans does decide after all to go for e6, which, well, now probably rook a7 does not fit into it that perfectly. But still, the position is so closed and sort of calm that nothing that bad happened just yet. And he goes for knight h5, going after the bishop pair, and bishop e5 on the board. f6, bishop g3 back, and g6. Kind of a typical way of playing the position. Black wants to capture the bishop on g3 at some moment, but is not in any rush, and therefore just waits with g6. And at some moment, he will capture on g3, gaining the bishop pair. But on the other hand, now as we see DANIIL Dubov playing in the center with e4, so that's often black's issue, kind of still a little bit underdeveloped, especially the rook on a7.
Exactly, underdeveloped is exactly the word I was searching for. Bishop on c8, rook on a7, king on e8. Somehow knight on h5 is even a bit dubious, even though, of course, we're going to play knight g3 at some point. e4, very good move by DANIIL. Like you said, he's creative and he's dynamic, and I think this game is again showing his creativity.
Yeah, and I do like Dubov's chances here, especially considering he's so good with dynamics.
Yeah, what are we going to do with the d5 pawn now, Felix? Are we going to go knight b4? Oh, b5.
Goes for b5. What is his idea after e takes d5? Is it maybe knight a5? Trying to kick out the queen from b3?
This is usually an idea if it works. I think even if you saw DANIIL's expression after b5 was played, he raised his eyebrows 2 times, like again, he doesn't get it.
Knight b4. What an idea. Hitting the bishop on d3 and getting ready to capture on d5 with the knight.
But does bishop e4 not bother you? Are you going to play f5?
I guess that has to be his idea here. Bishop e4, f5.
Wow. I even would consider, I don't know, this is crazy. Even knight b5 here looks cool. This is now, again, very dramatic.
Yeah, there are many ideas to sacrifice the piece. And he goes for d takes e6, which also looks interesting. So now knight takes d3. What is happening?
I don't know. What are we going to do after knight d3? Are going to d5?
Just rook d1.
What? What do you mean?
Wow. And if knight b4, he just wants to go d5, I assume.
I thought he would play that. Ah, yes. So this is. I thought he would play d5 immediately, but then knight c5 can be
Yeah,
a
that's what
struggle.
he's
So
trying to avoid.
very good.
So does Hans keep the piece? He could also think about giving it back under some circumstances, like knight takes b2 or queen d6. Yeah.
Okay, so taking the e6 pawn, very smart. We do not want to allow white to play d5.
Yeah, rook takes d3 is on the board. Now bishop takes e6. And now after d5, I assume bishop f5. Bishop f7, so he does allow knight e4.
Oh yeah, but after queen b6, I guess it's still not so scary, right?
Yeah, d6 is not possible yet because of the pin.
Yet, what if I go queen d1? How are you going to defend d6?
Yeah, that's difficult because you cannot blockade with bishop d6 since the pawn on f6 is hanging. Huh. He goes for queen c3 instead.
Okay, I mean, that's fine. F6 pawn will be hanging in some lines after d6.
Yeah, short castle on the board. And what is he trying to do after d6?
He has to go bishop d8, right?
I think so, but then even f6 is hanging.
Oh.
But then if he takes on f6 after taking and taking, there's bishop c4. So
maybe he's counting on that. It looks scary, but it works. Or does it?
I think so.
Okay, it works.
So DANIIL starts with rook e1 and...
Okay, I mean, of course, DANIIL now has 2 knights and Hans has 2 bishops, but this pawn on d6 looks... Oh, it looks so scary to play against.
Yeah, this has to be lost for white, but still, of course, not an easy conversion because the 2 bishops do have their own strength as well in many positions. You're
absolutely right. I think we both experienced it at some point or many points in our chess careers, the power of bishop pair. Yeah, now, like you said, the bishop is now activated back on f6, the other one is on c4. Now the question is, can we somehow promote this pawn already? Oh, Hans just taking the pawns. He doesn't care about stopping playing rook d7. Nah, not for him. Just taking the a2 pawn. And how are we going to now play with white knights? Knight on g5 is now a bit annoying because we cannot move the knight on f3 in a very correct way yet.
Yeah, you would love to go to e6 with the knight, but it's still covered rook e8 instead.
Ooh.
Wow, Hans is barely hanging on with rook e8.
Yeah, this looks like it could be over, but it's not, right? Okay, but what if I go rook e1 now with white?
Hang on, can I go queen b4 here? Is that one idea? Double attack on f8 and on b3.
Oh, gorgeous. And
I think that would have been winning queen b4.
We will check after the game, but I think you're right. But only 3 seconds for Dubov. Now he has 6 seconds,
wow.
95 on the board. The question is, will he manage to promote? If he doesn't, I think black will be the one winning the game.
This could definitely go wrong. Queen d5, now exchange of queens.
1 second. Oh, bishop
b3.
Oh, and now Dubov is hanging by a thread.
Both knights are hanging and wow, rook e3 still.
Oh, and this works because rook e8. Oh, how do we play this? King f8.
How do these players find these moves with only 2 seconds on the clock?
Honestly, insane. A lot of practice, I guess.
Rook a7.
No, this is now lost. Yeah, now
he has to give up the piece. This should be a technical conversion for white, and Hans resigns.
No, this was again very dramatic.
Wow, what a game!
I really thought that Hans was coming back after Dubov was struggling with these bishops. But
yeah, me too.
Oh wow. Okay, I'm going to check if queen b4 worked.
Yeah,
I think it did. I don't think, I just see evaluation. I just don't see the best move, but it's +6 for white.
Yeah, for me it shows queen b4 is the best move.
Yeah, I see queen b4.
But what DANIIL played was also still winning.
Yeah. still winning, but then
Then at
less
some
and less, and
moment,
then a draw. Yeah, so Hans did come back, and the mistake so was rook a7. So in this critical moment, of course, both players were low on time. Rook f8 was maybe the only move.
It looks like it, yeah.
Wow.
No,
but imagine you have like 3 seconds and you have to find rook f8.
Yeah.
It just doesn't cross your mind. I was thinking about king f8, but then knight h7 is, I think, lost. Probably lost, or maybe knight e6 as well. I don't know. A very interesting game for sure. It looked like Dubov is going to win very smoothly, but
yeah, Hans was putting up a great fight here.
Yeah.
And still we see all of the white games being decided in white's favor.
Very interesting, very interesting. And yeah, even Hans decided to change his opening, and this queen b3 by DANIIL. Yeah, e6, by the way, instead of rook a7 was the best move. So
it is, but it's not so easy to play that. No. As we have said, usually black doesn't want to go for e6 in general. Exactly,
because of the c8 bishop. I mean, I will use this in my games for sure. Queen b3. I wonder, after queen b3, can I go knight a5 though?
That's also what I was just checking, because it's kind of the typical reaction after queen b3. But I guess that DANIIL intended to go back queen c2. And still, it's not so easy to develop the bishop from c8.
Yeah, you do not want to go to g4 because knight e5. And then you have to go knight c6 back, and white gain the tempo, kind of.
Yeah. Okay. Difficult.
Wow. Okay. Very interesting. Very, very good idea by DANIIL. He never disappoints with his idea. Of course, Hans has many in his pocket as well, or pockets in his as well.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited that he will show us in the next games.
Yeah, me too. And maybe now is a good time to remind the viewers that we are broadcasting the event on ENDGAME.AI/watch. And yeah, this website has been launched only today, and there are only a limited number of spots reserved. So yeah, everyone should check it out.
For sure, check it out. Join the wait list, and chat with everybody that, of course, wants to be part of this new chess revolution that is happening on this platform. It is also very stunning, like you said, the design and developers did a great job. So yeah,
I love the UI in general. It just looks so fresh overall. Like we're kind of used to how things are with different chess websites, and nothing much has changed, which is also kind of natural. But now we have a completely fresh look, which is always nice to see.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I guess the players have a short break after every 3 games. They deserve it, Felix. I mean, look at the struggle. Oh, these 3 games, stunning games, but very big struggle for both players. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. Those blitz games, they just go on your nerves. Like there's so much adrenaline involved. As we can speak from our own experience, usually there's already a break after 1 game, but the players actually have 3 games without that much of a break in between. So they definitely need some rest, and also perhaps they have some time to check the openings where things went wrong, to improve on their earlier mistakes.
Yeah, let's say okay, so they're back at the board. What would you do if you had the option to go out, get some fresh air, or would you check what went wrong in the opening?
I would probably check the opening, definitely.
Yeah, that's smart, of course. And now they started their 4th game. Current score is 2-1 for Dubov, so only the beginning. And like you said, Felix, 3-0 for white pieces. So Hans is going to try to strike back with the Italian again.
Once again, and just to remind the viewers, the Italian has already been featured in the previous match, and DANIIL always went for this system with bishop e7. Like the classical system, of course, developing the bishop to c5 is still a regular guest in the top level, but it's really interesting to see that more and more players are developing the bishop to e7, which does in fact look more passive than on c5, but the system is holding up really, really well for the black side.
Absolutely, you're right. And actually, I played myself. I just think it's maybe even easier to play as this bishop c5. You have more theory, more ideas for white pieces, and this looks more simple, even though this bishop on e7 kind of looks weird, but it works, you know, trust me, you know, trust DANIIL. Try it out sometimes, you know, guys, everybody that's in the chat and everybody that's following this match. That's I'm so glad that there's so many of you that want to follow this amazing rematch happening in Moscow right now.
Yeah, now we did see quite a serious change in structure.
Yeah.
And wow, c5, not a move I was expecting at all. Usually white wants to kind of keep the pressure on d5.
c5 seemed a bit too fast, right? Castle first, maybe then trying to play b4 myself. Now this a5 that was played by DANIIL looks very fine for black pieces. Yeah,
and black is going to play for the attack on the king side, definitely, with knight g6, knight h4, for example. But I'm wondering if Hans's play on the queen side is going to be also quite fast. And he even plays in the center with f3. Another decision which I did not expect, but now the bishop might drop back to c2.
I mean, yeah, exactly. It makes sense. Now bishop is going to c2 and we have the bishop pair again.
Or to a4. We're getting surprised at every move.
If you see the body, the reactions by players, I feel like DANIIL is not actually very happy. He looks a bit bored with his position.
Yeah, it's always very difficult for me to read DANIIL's body language in general. Like you never can really know.
Yeah.
He can sometimes have those expressions like he's bored, but at the same time he's completely destroying you and checkmating you. So it's always very difficult to.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Maybe he's just extremely happy about his position, so we cannot judge the position by that. But before now on the board,
and rook a8 back.
Okay, so now it's time for bishop c2, finally, maybe looking at this a7 pawn, not threatening anything yet.
I love rook a3, pinning the bishop on e3 and the queen on f3. And I think the pressure is building up on Hans here.
Yeah. Oh, knight b3. I was thinking about knight b1, maybe just like...
Yeah, that would also be a nice move, kicking back the rook. But after knight b1, there might have been knight takes d4.
Oh, this is how I lose the game, yeah. Yeah, this looks very scary. Of course, something to calculate, but doesn't look good for... That's why Hans played knight b3, which is much better.
Yeah, knight b3 was a nice move, just guarding the third rank and also protecting the pawn on d4.
Exactly. And now if I had the ability, I would play something like bishop c1, but again, knight d4 looks terrible. Can I move the queen on d1, or is knight c5 or something like that coming?
Yeah, I would also love to move the queen somewhere to have also some sacrifice ideas on f6.
Yeah.
I just wonder what's the best square. Maybe queen d1 now.
But like again, like is knight c5 something that I have to calculate?
Knight c5, yeah.
Because knight c5, bishop c5, then maybe I can go bishop g5. Bishop e7. I don't know what's happening. This is a struggle, and that's why, of course, Hans is calculating. I do not feel comfortable with white, but like you said, if I manage to sacrifice something on f6, then it's fine.
Yeah, I agree with that. And Hans is spending a lot of time here, 50 seconds.
Oof, a lot of time. What are we going to see?
And he does go for queen d1.
Oh, now I'm excited. What will Dubov play?
Yeah, what's going on after knight takes c5 here?
I don't know. Let's let it up to players to calculate.
Maybe there's bishop c1.
Oof, you think so?
Just
I have no jumps with my knight. I have no attacks with my rook.
Yeah, I just want to take on a3 on the next move. I guess you can exchange you can sacrifice the exchange there.
Yeah.
But
maybe not enough, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Bishop
so hard to
C1,
say.
very, very nice spot. I think it might be the move. I could play rook b3, bishop b3, and something like knight e4 maybe.
Yeah, it does look like good compensation there as well. Now I'm thinking after knight c5, maybe you want to take first knight takes c5 back, and after bishop c5, then bishop c1. Might also be one idea.
Yeah, okay, fair point. Looks
Yeah,
correct. And DANIIL, of course, look, they're going down to exactly same time. So
yeah,
he's also struggling.
Also 50 seconds for Dubov.
I wonder, is he also, what is he calculating? I think he already rejected knight c5. It's not worth it. What does he want to play then? What can I play? Bishop e7? Yeah,
he goes back,
e7.
bishop e7. Queen d3, oof. Knight f8, so protecting h7 like that.
Smart, of course, necessary as well. Rook f6 was a huge threat. Yeah, finally bishop c1.
Finally bishop c1. This rook on a3 had to be removed.
Yeah, now actually I'm very happy with white position. Would you agree?
Yeah, especially after this move queen g3.
Okay.
But DANIIL stays solid. Knight g6, it's still not easy to enter, but I love knight a5. Pressuring the pawn on c6. Bishop a4 might also be coming.
Oh, bishop a4. Very good move, forcing bishop a4 not to happen, so exchanging the pieces.
And now many things are happening. f7 is falling, d4 is falling as well, queen d5.
How would you evaluate this?
It's so concrete. I think that black might be sort of okay here. Maybe queen e6 back.
I agree. I think black is okay, but this can be very scary.
Yeah, all three results are possible here. Strategically speaking, black is a little bit better because the pawns on the queen side are sort of fixed. But pawn on c6 is weak, and especially if the rooks enter on the 7th rank, it could become very dangerous.
Yeah, also e3 is now a kind of a threat for black, so knight c4,
knight
very
c4.
logical. Can I play something like knight h5 and try to attack myself, some queen g6 later?
Yeah.
Knight h4, sorry.
Goes for knight e7, which I'm not so sure about, because now there's rook e5 as played by Hans, queen g6.
And they're low on time.
Is there knight d6? It was played.
Oh, but knight d5.
Oh, so many ideas here. Maybe rook takes d5, and it's being played.
Oh, wow.
And now white has those connected passed pawns, and I think they are just super fast here.
I agree. So we're going to see another win by white. Very likely, of course, with 10 seconds on the board, nothing is sure, but c6.
e3.
Deadly, though.
e5.
Okay.
Black's pawn also reached e2, but it's probably not going any further now.
Compared to this c pawn,
Hans like picking up already another white queen.
Yeah, okay, DANIIL has to find some trick, but I don't see it. Yeah, not yet. Okay, maybe seeing it, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything here. Take, king f7, but...
He's gonna try, but...
Just queen c3 back, even very solid. And now queen f3 is gonna be played and...
Very nice.
Resigns. Wow, another white victory by Hans Niemann. Leveling the score once again to 2-2.
Wow, okay, that was... a very thrilling game, even though the castles were now both on the same side, short castles. But yeah, wow, very, very nice win by Hans. And like you said, just white keep winning.
Yeah.
0 points for black pieces.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I was really curious about Hans's decision to close the center with c5 in the middle game. And
let's check it, yeah.
The computer actually approves it. c5 is a pretty good move. And the position is level, but at some point Hans just outplayed DANIIL Dubov. Yeah,
this was actually a very strategic game, even though strategic with some dynamical ideas. Opening the F file was, I think, very great move. And then just this bishop pair, you know, at the end, of course, it crushed the knight there. So very, very nice. A very slow game, but very nice game. Knight c5 didn't work, right?
Knight
I'm just
c5,
going to check
that's
now.
a great question. Yeah.
No, like you said, knight c5, bishop c5, and
actually, bishop c1 now.
Exactly. Yeah, I just wanted to check if maybe we missed something, but you're right, as usual, Felix. I'm so glad to have you next to me to correct my not so smart ideas sometimes. Okay, wait. Again,
we are back with a
Catalan.
new game and
Yay.
exactly the same position which we saw earlier.
Perfect. Okay, so now we can now we know 95 is probably not the best move, and we see bishop d6.
Goes bishop d6, which I'm not a big fan of, because now you can actually never take on e5, because then after d takes e5 there's always going to be the double attack.
So that kind of means that Hans maybe didn't check this opening, because knight d7 in the first place was, I think, not the best move.
Yeah, d takes e4 was probably, but now I think that Hans, unless there's some concrete issues, now I think he has quite a comfortable position after queen b7.
Very nice, very nice. Queen b7 with this bishop on d5 looks very comfy.
In general, what I learned in this type of structure, if you have the bishop on b7 and the pawn on d5, in almost all of the cases you want to take on c4 the first chance you get. Because when white can capture on d5, it's often quite awkward to recapture. And you don't want to recapture with a pawn in most cases, because then the bishop on b7 would not be doing much at all.
Yeah, absolutely correct. That's why also with white pieces, sometimes when black plays b6 and bishop b7, you take on d5 yourself. So you never allow black to open this bishop. So of course,
exactly,
black pieces, then it's nice to take on c4. Of course, if the opening works. So yeah, now we have this queen c2. Somehow, of course, b5, by the way, was very interesting approach by Hans.
Yeah, pushing back the queen, on the other hand, it does create some weaknesses, especially the c5 square.
Exactly.
But it does look like the control of the light squares, this nice bishop on d5, sort of compensates for that. And
yeah, exactly. So h6 was a good move, because otherwise white would have wanted to go knight d7, knight d7, knight g5, and followed by e4. I think that was a very interesting idea. So h6 just stopped this idea. Yeah, and I think Hans so far so good.
Yeah, it's probably the best opening outcome he has had by far with the black pieces.
Yeah, and maybe it's time for black to make its first
and
score.
It's happening. Bishop h6. I was about to say it does look like such a Dubov move, and it's being played.
Oh my, bishop h6. I didn't even consider it, and maybe Hans didn't either, because
yeah, he does look like it sort of caught him by surprise. And what's happening here? What do you do with the knight on f6?
Can I go knight h7? What are you going to do if I do it?
Knight h7, maybe knight g5.
Just immediately? Okay. So yeah, that's why knight d5 is on the board. I think that's perfectly fine. But now I would want to consider knight g5.
Once
bishop
again.
g2, and knight g4.
Ah, that's a nice idea.
Or knight d7.
Yeah.
But probably because of bishop e7 doesn't work. Even though...
Yeah, already 2 pieces down there. It's quite a lot of material.
If I checkmate, then it's not.
That's true, yeah.
But somehow I don't see a checkmate. And DANIIL is calculating. He's a great calculator in this type of positions. Specifically, I think they really work for him.
Yeah,
okay,
absolutely.
Just check first. Are we going to h7 or h8 now? I would guess h7, maybe, right?
h7, he's still thinking. Could also consider going to h8 just to be able to put a piece to h7. to cover the king.
Ah, okay. Yeah, that would also work. But he decided to go knight.
Yeah, he goes to h7, queen h4. So DANIIL probably ready to go for perpetual, but Hans is probably playing on, because if now queen g5, there's bishop g6 to consider.
Well, the struggle is real for sure. Somehow, yeah, somehow maybe this queen g5 was not the best approach for white. Knight g4 immediately, okay.
But it does go on. Queen h6 is on the is something which black needs to think of.
Yeah, I can decide to go rook h8 and then bishop g6, like you said before, put something on g6.
And Hans takes on g4, and then we'll go back bishop g6.
Yeah, more simple. Why would I want to keep more pieces on the board? This seems better. e4 though is a threat, I think.
Yeah, and the bishop on g2 is opening up here.
Yeah.
Still should not be enough compensation for white, I would say, but practically speaking, it's quite difficult for black.
But it's also difficult for white, I think.
But now knight takes g6 is played. fg6, e6 is hanging as well.
Yeah.
Wow, bishop g3.
What? Wow.
Queen b6, bishop f2 is there. Queen d7, rook f7. And queen takes f7.
Wow.
What's happening here?
Oh, he didn't take the rook. He decided to take the bishop.
Yeah, wow. I'm a little bit surprised by that.
Why? I don't know.
Well, he's keeping his king safe and still... Oh, queen a5. And how do you protect rook on e7, rook on e1 and the bishop on d5?
I don't know.
I think you can't.
I don't think so either. I think DANIIL messed up very badly.
Yeah, rook c6 was a blunder, I believe.
Yeah, I really wonder. Okay, so I think this game is going to finish. I will check the engine because I wonder if after bishop h6, white could have somehow won the game. Actually, bishop h6 was winning. In fact, after knight d5, Felix, knight g5 was winning after bishop takes g2 and e4.
Oh my God.
Obviously. However, I really want to see, instead of taking on g3, could I have taken on a8? Yeah, bishop a8 was much better, +2 by engine.
Yeah.
Of course, the game is still not over. However, I think it's going to be a time.
And Hans was reaching for king h4, which would have run into rook h7.
He could have lost the queen with rook h7. Yeah, he was just shaking his head.
Dubov on 1 second.
Okay, it's so.
Well, there are some chances to build a fortress.
Oh.
If white now places the rook, for example, to d3 and puts a pawn on a3, there are some chances.
Is that a fortress?
That's still not clear, but...
Wow, okay, Hans struggling, I see.
There are some chances. King f4 is a nice move, trying to checkmate the king. King g3, but the king is running out.
Coming out.
Is there now a double attack on the queen and the rook? There is queen a1 check, king d2, queen a2.
Starting with queen c3, I like this after king d1.
And king e1 and king f2, now queen e1 is coming.
Wow. This is very nice by Hans.
3 seconds for DANIIL. Rook b3, queen a1, and now probably DANIIL is gonna lose the pawns, still hanging on to e2.
This is close to a fortress now, would you say?
Wow, what a nice trick. King d2, queen takes e2. But is the pawn endgame winning for black?
Oh my.
I think it is.
I think he's gonna go for it.
Yeah. And sacrificing the queen on b2.
Very nice.
Dubov resigns.
I think this came very close to a draw. This was scarily close to a draw, I think, at some point. Even though engine disagrees, but let me see the ending position. Yeah.
Daniel was fighting until the very end, and we see the players having a pretty good time after that crazy game.
Oh my, so first score with black pieces. Finally, Felix, we got an end game where black pieces won.
Finally, yeah. And as we all know, we have the broadcast on ENDGAME.AI, which I think now is a good time to once again mention.
Yeah.
And there's a wait list. Only 10,000 people are getting accepted at the moment. So
Please
definitely check it out.
us.
And yeah.
Yeah, we're having fun. I hope you guys are also having fun. And I think the players are having fun.
It does
given
look
the
like
games.
it, yeah.
Of course, it's a big struggle. I think it's very nerve-wracking in general to be a chess player and then to play this match with so much tension, everything on the line. Of course, this is a rematch, but of course, Hans, you know, the being a player that he wants to win. He wants to come back.
Yeah. That's another thing which, well, we talked about Hans's qualities before, but that's another thing which everyone can really see about him, that he really wants to win every single game which he plays. And that's something you don't see with all of the top grandmasters. Many of them are very solid and often they're content with the draw, but I feel like Hans is always really, really trying to play for win against basically anyone and is scared of no one as well.
Absolutely. And that's such a good virtue to have as a chess player. Also, Daniil, I mean, kudos to him. He's, like you said, so creative, and he also doesn't just settle for a draw. He always gives it his best. I mean, bishop h6. I didn't even consider it, and this is my type of move, Felix. And he just, played it immediately, and it works. Yeah. It was winning. However, with 3 minutes on the clock, it's impossible to convert it cleanly.
Yeah.
And Hans just very, very good chess by Hans at the end. So, okay, finally a Sicilian, Felix, finally.
Something new. And Dubov does not go for his line with h5, which he did in the previous match, but he goes for the classical dragon.
Is classical dragon by engine still an okay opening?
Actually, it sort of is. I checked it more recently, and while white has some sort of small advantage with the engines in correspondence chess, for example, black even holds exactly like Daniil is playing at. So that's one of the main lines here. And white does keep a small edge, but with good play by black, at least according to the computers, it's nothing much. But of course, in a practical game, anything can happen. Black does have the worst structure here. We can see the pawn on c6 is an extra pawn island. But on the other hand, black gets the open b file, which might often lead to attacking chances after something like rook b8 in many cases.
Nice. Yeah, you're a better expert than me in a dragon for sure. And I'm so glad that you gave me this insight. And this pawn sacrifice, is it typical?
I think that queen a5 was not the main move. I think bishop e6 was. And there was one game by Gawain Jones, who is one of the big experts in the dragon, who I think also played this exact pawn sacrifice before. And as far as I remember, it's not entirely correct, but it does ask many difficult questions for white, because if black gets two more moves in, bishop e6 and rook c8, and perhaps rook b8, then white is going to have a very tough time to defend this attack.
Yeah, I'm also trying to check if queen a5 is a good move, but I mean, Dubov did kind of blitz it, and I think it's like second or third best move, and this pawn sacrifice is, actually very, very nice. And of course, Hans didn't even consider taking the rook on a8, he just...
Yeah, but maybe now he is, because what actually happens after taking there? I guess bishop f5 is the idea. And he does go for it. Queen a8, bishop f5, taking on f8 is forced. There's a mate threat on c2, and now bishop d3.
And again,
very interesting. Another endgame, yeah?
Yes, I wanted to say the same. Again, an endgame. Wow, what a coincidence. I mean, yeah, the chess is, just... Chess is endgame at this point, at this level that they're playing. But of course, two rooks against the queen. This is anything but a draw right now. This is, again, a very fighting game. Would you take white or black pieces here, Felix?
I think that white should have the better objective chances, but practically I'm not so sure because the queen is just so tricky in faster time controls. And I have to say, I really love Daniel's opening choices so far because he really goes for the positions that are practically difficult to handle for Hans Niemann. And he prepares them very well always. I've always also noticed that in their previous match, that he has those very nice practical opening ideas. H5, H4 on the board, fixing the weakness on G2.
Very nice.
But the C pawn is quite fast in many cases.
It's exactly like white is a pawn up, besides, of course, having two rooks against the queen. So if we did a chess math, it's +2, you know?
Yeah, true.
However, like you said, queen can be tricky. However, combined with the bishop, I would pick white pieces just because, of course, this pawn is running and somehow I'm not scared of anything yet. I would maybe play b3 at some point just to stop any checkmate ideas by black, but that's why, of course, also a5.
Yeah, a5, a4 is a very nice idea. And c5 immediately could run into ideas like queen d5. So he goes for king e1 first, just stepping out of this diagonal, where there are often checks from f5, for example.
Yeah, absolutely. So a4, of course, on the board. Okay, but now after a3 with this bishop on e6, it's not so clear.
Yeah, now Daniil is able to blockade the pawn on c4 quite comfortably, at least for the moment.
Yeah, and with white pieces, if I ever decided to push this pawn, I would be slightly scared, like queen b6, queen b3, and then, you know, checkmate on a2. However, bishop b1 is always a nice way to protect.
That's a great point. Yeah, bishop b1 does keep the king pretty safe. g5 on the board. So Daniil playing very positionally, this type of position, putting already the pawn on h4 to fix the weakness on g2.
I agree. However, Felix, what else could he do here?
I was thinking he could. I was expecting him to run in with the king to g3, knowing Daniil Dubov. But, well, he might still be able to do that, playing king e5 at some moment.
Very, very nice. King e5, king f4.
And he goes for king e5.
In his style. Like, you know him. You know him, yeah?
Bishop d5.
Exactly. So how can we continue with black now? Now, of course, we cannot take on d5.
Yeah, bishop f5, which also sets up a nice trap, queen g1 check, which would actually checkmate.
Yes, after bishop e4, I think... oh, would you want to take it? I guess.
Well, now...
Would you?
I would consider it. What would happen after bishop e4? He did go back to e6, though.
Maybe... No, I think he would just... Yeah, actually, you're right. I think he would have just taken it and gone rook d5 or something. But then g2 could be hanging.
Yeah.
Could be tricky.
Yeah.
I agree, but he just decided to go bishop e6. Maybe he was just waiting for him to repeat the move.
And now the king is entering. King f4, bishop c2.
Oh my.
Dubov gives a check on g1. I expect king a2 to be played.
Yeah. And now a4 is hanging. So how are we protecting it?
That's a great question.
So if we cannot protect, that means we have to attack. Something like queen c1, queen e1. Oh,
he does protect it with queen a7.
I don't exactly like this move, but okay, if it's necessary, that what can I do?
Yeah, I'm also not a big fan. You would like to go sort of forward with your pieces, but it's also not clear how white is actually going to improve the position because c5 is never possible with the king on a2.
Yeah,
and whenever...
I just wanted to go rook e2, rook e6, you know, at this point, because I just want to push this pawn. It probably doesn't work, you know, it's just my stupid ideas. But in blitz, you know, anything can happen. Bishop d1, just again asking black a question. Okay, so what are you doing with your life?
Yeah, and king g3 could run into some f4 ideas quite often as well.
Some
To be
checkmate
careful.
could be, yeah.
Yeah,
On
exactly.
the board. I would love to see it. So let's go, DANIIL. Let's go king g3.
And he goes for it. King g3, king b1. So now bishop takes a4 is a threat.
Is it?
Ah, it's not. The queen is still on a7.
Okay,
the queen is still on a7. c5 is a threat. C5 is a threat.
That is a threat,
yeah.
Yes. I agree, yes. So queen, I think it's very misplaced on a7, but yes, the pawn is hanging otherwise. And of course, white has this beautiful f4 idea at some point. I'm very excited for Hans to play it one day. But no time for Dubov. Played on 1 second. Wow. I think Hans will score.
But Hans also down to 6-5 seconds.
Okay.
f4 is played. King takes f4, rook d5. Wow. Is he setting up a checkmate? Net, g4, c5 now on the board. Wow, e5 getting a lot of counterplay. e4 could be coming. But now c7.
Okay.
What can DANIIL do? And did he lose on time? gh3 on the board. He played with 1 second.
They're so strong with playing so low on time, but I think this is over now.
Still
struggling though, but
wow.
Whoa, what moves? Threatening bishop f5 or rook f5 even.
And bishop f5 is on the board.
Beautiful.
And rook takes f5. Now I think DANIIL is going to resign. Wow. Beautiful. What a game.
That was actually a big struggle to win for white, but once Hans stabilized with the king and his bishop, it was too hard for black.
Yeah.
I think, right? A pawn and 2 rooks. If black maybe had a knight, it would have been different. But with this bishop, it was much harder to play.
Yeah.
And Engine, I think, also agrees. It was always around +1 for Hans, actually.
Yeah, but the way he showed the technique was really nice to see, because the position is so difficult to play with white. At least that's kind of the feeling which I had, because the queen is just so tricky.
Yeah.
But with all these maneuvering ideas, and at some moment he was able to get in c5, which was kind of the only idea to win the game.
Absolutely. And Felix, I just briefly checked the game right now. And you know when so bishop g4, f5 happened, and rook f8, this is actually a draw if black finds move e3.
Wow, e3, how does it go on there?
So e3, I think bishop d1 would have been the best, but bishop f5 would have lost after queen
there's
h1.
Queen h1, and after king c2, bishop b3 with a check.
Yes, it's of course impossible to calculate on 1 second, but yes, and then repetition after king d3, I think, or something like that.
King d3, queen d1 is actually a nice checkmate.
Wait, is it a checkmate?
I think so. Queen d1, king d3, queen d1. But rook takes b3 is, I guess, how it continues. Wow, it's just so complicated.
Okay, so yeah, this is okay. No, very, very, very interesting. I was king I don't know why Engine says king d3 and it says 0-0, but it's checkmate in 1.
Yeah, I think it's just too complicated for the Engine, this type of position.
It's very complicated, but kudos to Hans for scoring a win. It's 4-2 right now, so Hans trying to get his dream to beat Dubov after what happened in the last match. By the way, very exciting match, and I'm so glad I am part of this rematch happening on ENDGAME.AI.
Yeah, me too. And as you mentioned, Hans now was able to win 2 games in a row, breaking the losing streak with the black pieces in the previous game, in the game before that, and putting the score to 4-2 now.
Exactly. And I think are the players, players I think are having another break after 6 games. After each 3 games, they have a slight break to check the openings, maybe get some fresh air, personal preferences.
What would
I
you
think
do? I didn't ask you yet. Would you go for
there
the
was
fresh
no
air?
time yet they started. I think so, because I myself like to choose different openings each game, especially if I lose. So I would just decide to play something else, never play this again. Or if there was enough time, I would actually check the opening. But I think priority for me would be fresh air and some coffee.
And coffee, the most important one now.
Chess players, what can we do? But yes, of course, deserved break. Like you said, Hans finally, or the first one to score a win with black pieces. DANIIL still has to do that. And Hans already sitting, I think he maybe got some snacks to eat. I think chess players in general, we are big snackers, got some water, some snacks. We need the energy. These 6 games, short games, but I think they burned more calories than, maybe a workout. Maybe my workout, But I did read that actually chess burns a lot of calories, like apparently also up to 6,000 a game. Of course, the classical game, I think that's a bit too much, but I would maybe say up to like 2,000 could be a correct estimation.
Yeah, definitely depends on the nerves which the players have as well, but all of the adrenaline which goes into the games, that just takes so much of your energy. And there has been this anecdote by, I think, Anatoly Karpov, who played one of his World Championship matches, and after the match he noticed that I think he lost up to 5 kilograms during the match. So
was it against Kasparov even? They both lost a lot of weight, if I remember.
I believe so. The matches have been so tough.
It was. And it was very long as well. It just never ended the match.
Yeah, the World Championship matches back in the day were also longer than they are nowadays, I think.
Absolutely.
I remember some of the matches taking up to a couple of months even.
Yes, and I think that was one of the matches. So chess, besides being very stressful, yes, chess is a sport. You cannot prove me wrong, okay? We burn calories. But actually very exciting games. I am so thrilled that we see this fighting chess. Like you said, Felix, these days it's very hard to see this fighting chess on a top level. So game 7, will we see a Catalan again?
And it does look like it. I also noticed, and I have to say that I saw the chairs which the players are sitting on. It really looks like a throne which some kings used to sit on. So the playing venue is definitely something quite extraordinary as well.
Yeah, it's beautiful. The details as well, the flags, everything is perfect. Also, the board, the transmission is working perfectly, which, as we know, chess players sometimes can bug a bit. So very good organization.
Yeah, especially during blitz games, like all of the pieces are flying left and right, and to keep the transmission working that well is pretty impressive. And Hans, this time
his opening.
He at least deviated from the line with Queen C8, where he did run into some trouble.
Yes. So he decided to play A5 instead of Knight D7. No, actually, instead of Queen C8, he played A5, which I think it's very correct. This is very
And wow, Knight takes F7, another sacrifice by Daniil Dubov. And did Hans blunder here because King F7? So he doesn't take, because if King F7, Knight E5, and then White can capture the bishop on B7.
Exactly, and we don't want to lose this B7 bishop for no reason yet. However, I think that was a blunder. If you have to go Queen E7, I think that's just a blunder, right?
Yeah.
However, why does DANIIL seem like he's struggling?
Well, he doesn't even have to move the knight, I guess, because still there will be Knight E5.
True.
And then I guess that Hans is gonna try and hang on to the pawn on C4, at least to keep the material balance.
Fair point.
A3, what a nice move. Because if bishop D6 goes back, then White can capture on D6 and win the pawn on C4.
Nice. Smooth. Very smooth. What can Hans do now? Is it already that bad for Black? Where did we go wrong?
I think D takes C4 must have been the mistake, allowing Knight takes F7.
I have to check this. Even the rook e8, apparently, by this engine given on ENDGAME.AI is not a great move. c5 was a much better move,
Yeah.
apparently. But yes, d takes c4 was already... yeah, because knight f7 is a blunder. It's not crazy bad, just around +1, plus 1.5, you know, still very playable, but a pawn is a pawn.
A pawn is a pawn, bishop pair there as well.
Bishop pair as well, yeah.
But the bishop on b7 is quite a strong piece.
It is, but...
and yeah, it is a clear pawn up for white. We can't sugarcoat it.
Yeah, exactly. Of course, Hans will do his best to get into an end game and maybe save something there. He almost did it last time. However, I think it was the first game where Hans also messed up the opening exactly in a Catalan and got into an endgame with a pawn down. So I think he's in the same position right now. And
yeah,
I don't have high hopes. But queen b7, good move. I mean, not allowing knight to move except to h4 or e1.
Yeah, there's one idea which I spotted. It might be smart to play bishop h3 here, putting pressure on the pawn on e6 and getting ready to move the knight from f3 to d2. That could be one possible idea.
Yeah, I like it. So let's say I decide bishop h3. I don't know. Let's say I go king f7.
And he goes for bishop h3.
Very nice.
Yeah, king f7.
How are you? How do you just go knight d2?
That was my idea. Still, you can protect everything with bishop d5.
But then some queen f4, maybe f3, e4, right? Could be.
Yeah, also d6 is gonna be weak. So king f7 has been played.
Yay! I guess the move. It's always a thrill, you know, when you're commenting these super grandmasters games and then, you know, they play your move and I'm just like, oh, okay, I'm not so bad, you know, sometimes I can play well.
Yeah.
It's always exciting, but
and knight d2, bishop d5 on the board. And now you mentioned move queen f4, which well,
my type of position.
We're doing pretty good here guessing the moves, I would say.
Yeah, only if f3 happens and e4, and then I can say, you know, that I won the guessing game. But of course, now with the exchanges happening.
Oh, that's a nice idea, though, because Hans is trying to fight for the c file. And if the queen can enter on c1, then Black could definitely have some chances of counterplay. Like if you would take on c8 now and then capture on d6, then after queen c1, Black is going to have some counterplay there.
Yeah, absolutely. Like if I get this c file, nothing is absolutely clear. I cannot win the e pawn yet, even though the king on f7 looks not the best. Rook e1, not my favorite move to play. I would have considered the move knight f1 maybe first, but okay, we want to play e4, e5. Looks like a smooth win to me.
Yeah,
it's going to happen, of course. G5.
G1, wow. G5, queen d6, G4, giving up 2 pawns now, but forcing the bishop back to f1.
Yeah.
Does it?
Okay, I don't see a problem.
Goes back to f1, rook c2, and queen f4 back. So now 2 pawns and e4 is coming.
Exactly. Hans, I think, struggling a lot right now. Queen c7, letting go of another pawn on h6. Shall we take it? What is the issue after queen h6? Is it rook c1?
Great question. Yeah, maybe rook c1 is a little bit awkward. But he does go for it. And if rook c1, which was played, I guess white has to capture. Could you also think about playing knight f3 here? He does capture on c1, queen c1, and queen f4 back, getting ready to move the knight.
Or getting ready to play also e4, even if I just keep the pawn. Can I go for it? e4. Yes.
He does go for it.
Low on time, DANIIL right now, but with this pawn domination, I think that's not really important. There's no checkmate ideas by black. If I could go bishop c6, bishop b5, and threaten something, I would, but it's not even a threat. Yeah.
Yeah. He goes bishop e4.
Okay. Interesting idea by DANIIL. He didn't want to take on e4.
Yeah, I was expecting him to go to the endgame, which looked pretty promising.
Oh, I don't understand why would you go e4 and then move the queen. Of course, he can go knight e4 now.
Yeah, and that's what he does. I think forcing Hans to go into the endgame. It should still be a technical win. White is, in fact, 2 pawns up here.
Yeah, should be pretty easy. Going some h4, h3. I don't know what's better. Okay, even simpler. Bishop e2, forcing knight f6, I think. Oh.
King f6 works, but now h4, forcing black to take on h3. Yeah, he goes for it, knight h3. Knight is coming to f4.
But also knight coming...
Yeah. d4 will fall, probably. This bishop... It would have been bishop f3 maybe, but he just gives up the pawn, and those 2 connected pawns should decide the game after all. Maybe
he was worried after king e6, but bishop g4 would have won the game on the spot. So I guess pressure, time pressure is a key factor in blitz games. Like Hans said, it's pure luck at the end. Of course, it's skill combined with luck, but luck is present in these games. But so far, DANIIL has been very convincing in transmissing it into a win. Yeah, and we get the board view because 4 seconds against 5 seconds. Maybe DANIIL can still lose on time.
2 seconds, f5.
But they're both experts.
King f6, king d4.
Okay, some quick moves being played, but everything is protected. Everything is on white squares and king coming in.
Yeah, now king e5 followed by f6 is coming, and therefore Hans resigns. And now we have the score of 4-3. Still 2 games are gonna be played.
Yeah, exactly. So today there are 9 games. This was game 7 out of 9 games. 2 more to be played. Again, another win with white pieces. So only 1 so far win with black pieces. But like you said, Hans is still leading 4-3.
Yeah.
Am I correct in my math? But 2 more games. Again, very exciting game. This one was maybe slightly, I wouldn't say not disappointing, but slightly... not as exciting as other ones because of this knight f7 blunder.
Yeah, I have to agree. That was kind of an unfortunate turn of events in the opening stage already.
Yeah.
See the next handshake and e4 is on the board. Yay. Are we going to see another Italian?
Oh,
does look like it.
He's sticking to his opening choices, and also is DANIIL after he goes for bishop e7 again. Like you said, this is just his opening right now.
Once again, rook e8, and this time Hans goes for knight g5, which he didn't do in the previous game.
Okay.
So it could be his idea that he's trying to provoke h6, then the knight would move back to f3, and then white could have created a hook with h6 and tried to make use of that by playing g4 and g5.
Okay, so going for an attack and white not castling yet, I think that's always slightly scary. Knight d4. Wow, very interesting move by DANIIL.
Drops back the knight to f3.
And c5.
And c5 on the board, weakening the d5 square, but also just cementing the knight on d4. And Hans goes for g4 anyways.
Okay, now without h6 on the board, this seems like it's not as scary. But, I mean, how will black play? Now, do I go... going bishop e6 is normal. However, I want to play b5 at some point now. I don't want to be attacked, on the king side. Then you have to have some... Whoa!
Knight takes e4.
Whoa! Did you see Hans look up when this happened? I think Hans has some blundering days these days. Not days, blundering day. Maybe just today. It's not maybe a blunder because I am not... I don't think I'm losing a pawn, right? After knight e4, d5, I get it back, but very unpleasant, I think, for white.
Yeah, difficult. How are you gonna reply to d5? You don't want to give up the light squared bishop.
No.
Then all of your light squares would be weakened.
I have to go bishop a2, right?
But yeah,
That
bishop
looks terrible.
a2, d takes e4, then the knight on f3 is hanging as well.
Sorry, so bishop a2, d takes e4, I take on e4 myself.
Oh, you take there. Oof, everything is protected there, yeah. You are right. But knight takes e5 instead, so now Dubov is going to end up being a pawn down at the moment, but it looks like fantastic compensation.
Absolutely, you're right.
The pawn storm on the king side is not really going anywhere at the moment.
Yeah.
And all of the light squares are just so weak.
Absolutely, I would even consider going f5 here to open up the f file. King on e1 is too weak. If I had two moves, I would go queen d2 long castle, put this king somewhere safe, but I do not have two moves.
Yeah,
sadly.
You would love to play queen d2,
Yeah,
but fortunately black has knight f3 there. Maybe queen h5 could be considered, but then there's knight takes c2, so he just eliminates the knight on d4.
Oh, and look at these two bishops against two knights. Wow.
Yeah, so strong.
This is going to be another very thrilling game. Of course, DANIIL pawn down, but a huge compensation here.
Rook g1, nice idea, trying to get some knight f6 checks in, and therefore DANIIL steps aside with the king, going to h8.
Yeah, doesn't want to allow any tactics to happen. But now, how can I put my king into a safe zone? Because b5 is going to happen, I assume, from black's perspective.
Yeah, b5 is also there.
So yeah, h4, rook c8, h5 looks, oh no. Oh, another blunder by Hans, just allowing rook c4 to happen. Oh, I don't think, maybe Hans didn't sleep very well tonight. You know, it happens.
Yeah, that was
time zone
unfortunate.
difference. Maybe is showing. It happens. He looks to be struggling in today's openings. Actually, I think his chess is amazing, but I think his openings are the ones that are putting him into this position today, because DANIIL may be slightly more prepared.
Yeah, I agree. DANIIL has been showing his great preparation in all of the games, basically, showing these nice ideas in the opening stage. Still, we are saying that Hans is kind of struggling, but still he's leading the match. So that kind of sort of means something already, that he is kind of struggling in some of the games, but still has a lead at the moment.
No, it's crazy. Like, yeah, like he has been blundering these pawns in these three, he lost 3 games. Maybe this will be a 4th one. In all of them, I think there was some kind of opening problem, opening blunder. But other games he's played brilliant, you know. So if he just improves these mistakes in the openings, I think he could take a lead very easily.
Yeah, absolutely. And what we should also mention about Hans is that he's just playing chess nonstop, and it also gets so exhausting. Cannot imagine he's going from tournament to tournament, from match to match, and keeping those energy levels is just so difficult also in the long run. G6, trying to find counterplay.
Okay.
Queen takes c4. Now queen a2 might come. Rook e1. Yeah, Hans is looking like he's not really enjoying this position, understandably so.
Yeah. Okay, it's not over, but Felix, how are we finishing white off? Or would you say it's not that clear anymore?
I think it should still be kind of a clear win. He goes for bishop f6, just guarding the pawn on g7. At some moment, you could think about going d3 or queen a2. I think this is only a matter of time for DANIIL to convert it to a full point. Rook g3 still defending the d3 square, making d3 harder, but rook c8. Such a nice move. Putting even more pressure on c2. Take on f7, h6.
Oof, h6. Do bishop g6, but now, okay, it's these bishops are just very strong, but
King g8, what a move.
he doesn't even want to take the pawn.
Yeah,
No
just
need
just using the g7 pawn also as kind
as
of a shield.
protector,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. And now queen c2 is a threat. I think Hans might need to give up the exchange on g6 here. 2 seconds. 1 second.
Wow.
e2.
Hans, come on, play faster. I know it's hard, but okay, it's no, this is just a struggling position right now. Is d3 just winning, by the way?
Yeah, d3 looks powerful, and he does reach for it.
Yeah.
And Hans resigns, yeah, that game did not go as well for Hans as he probably wished for it. His idea with knight g5 looked interesting, but Dubov's idea with knight d4 was, I think, a quite nice counter. Just immediately trying to play in the center. Usually that's a good idea when one side is playing on one flank of the board, like Hans did with the move knight g5. You immediately want to counter in the center, and that's what DANIIL did in this game very instructively.
Yeah, this was a struggling game for Hans and a very good one by Dubov, but of course, very nice tactical idea with knight e4. But already, I think, apparently, Black had a great position even before that. So very good opening choice again by Dubov. This knight d4, c5. I didn't know that was a classical idea for Black pieces, but now I know, and I guess I will use it as well.
Yeah, it came quite unexpectedly. Like you don't see a knight d4 jump in the Italian that often. Quite surprisingly so, but his whole strategy just ended up being very successful with his move c5 then. And we do see the kickoff of the next game, and of course another Catalan bishop b4 check once again. And this time Hans goes for the move d takes c4, which is actually the main move.
Yeah.
And this time
finally
is
some main line here by Hans. Of course, I love sidelines. I never go into main line myself, but it's time. We both, I think, agree that it's time to show that this opening knight d2 is not the best for white, and the main line shows why. However, still a very tricky position. Again,
DANIIL has already quite a lot of experience in those positions. He had quite a few games as well. And in general, it seems like to me he's quite comfortable just playing the position with being a pawn down. And he always manages to find great compensation for that. Very typical idea in the Catalan, which we see now, b3, exchanging this extra pawn on c4, but at the same time opening up the c-file and letting in the knight to the c5 square if white takes on b3. But Hans goes for the move c3. And
very typical. However, after knight b1,
knight b1 was played. Usually Black would like to play b4, but
not in this position.
Yeah, I guess
it's not a bad move. Like b4, it's not a bad move. However, it doesn't achieve anything, in my opinion. Of course, takes. Now we probably will see a takes b4, bishop b4.
Yeah, also e4 maybe first could be included.
First, yeah.
He goes for it e4, just kicking out the knight first. Guess knight b6, and now he takes.
Yeah, that was the problem of this b4 move. Like somehow I feel like we just lost a tempo. Okay, knight c6 though. That's a good move. Didn't consider that one. Now some b4 and d4 is hanging while the queen would be attacked. What would we take, Felix? Are we taking on d4?
Oof, great question. I would prefer to take on b4 because opening up the d file could also have some dangers, and Hans also goes for that, taking on b4 instead. Guess queen will move to... he goes to b1.
Okay, that's fine.
C5.
Not my favorite place for a queen.
Yeah, I thought it would be more natural on e2 maybe.
It would. Maybe he was scared of some a5, bishop a6.
Yeah, that would also be my explanation.
Which is fair. This is something that I would sometimes blunder myself, you know, it's just very easy move by black to do something like that. Yeah, I feel like Hans has a good position.
Definitely looks much better now than it used to a couple moves before. In my opinion, this move f6 is often a weakness because the pawn on e6 can often be a little bit soft, but on the other hand, it also protects the e5 square. So now the knight on f3 is severely restricted, doesn't have many squares to go to. And I love this move queen c8, which he just played, just stepping out of the d file and
Yeah, simple.
also targeting the knight on c3 in some cases.
Exactly. And if I could, I would again have two moves, play bishop e3, rook c1, you know, just put my rook on the c file. But I don't have two moves. I mean, okay, but bishop e3 is still a move to consider.
It is.
But it looks like too many pieces could be hanging. So knight e2, very safe move. If you take on d4, I will take back with a knight. Simple, but look at these pieces, white pieces, rook on a1, queen on b1, rook on d1, bishop on c1. Something went wrong for white, I feel like.
Yeah, and black's pieces, on the other hand, are now really playing well together, especially the knight on b4 has this nice outpost. It can actually never be kicked out of there. Bishop on b7, also a powerful piece. Does look quite comfortable. f5 played by Hans.
Wow. Okay.
Opening up the diagonal for the bishop on b7.
I like it, but it comes as a surprise for me.
Yeah, it does also weaken the e5 square.
Yeah, and g5 in the future, if this diagonal opens, it's a brave move. It is a very brave move. What can I do with white though? Can I even play anything? I mean, do I have to take on f5?
Yeah, DANIIL is thinking about just that. Taking on f5 seems like the most natural move, but he does go for knight e5 first.
Okay, but wouldn't I like to exchange my bishop now? Like bishop e4 or f takes e4?
I think so, yeah. Usually you would like to exchange the bishop on g2, because then white is going to end up with some holes on the king side.
Exactly. But okay, he didn't go for it because he wanted to put his pieces on better squares first.
Yeah.
He will always have a chance to exchange it later. So no need for it. And rook d8, again, putting a pressure on the d file and d4 pawn. I even would want to take on d4 and play knight c2 in the future. So maybe c takes d4, knight d4, rook d4, bishop d4, knight c2.
Yeah, there's just so much pressure in the center. It's so difficult, especially for white now, because the whole center is under attack, both with the c5 pawn attacking the central d4 pawn and the f5 pawn attacking the central e4 pawn. And the knight on e5 is sort of hanging in the air there. So,
yeah, struggle, and DANIIL is down to 17 seconds.
Rook a5.
Okay.
Okay. What an idea. Still protecting the knight on e5. In many cases, that can be useful. cd4, knight d4, and now we see the rook on a5 protecting e5, but it just does look a little bit shaky.
It looks extremely shaky to me.
Yeah.
This white coordination of pieces, it looks like this could be over in 2 moves or in like 50 moves, you know?
Yeah.
Queen c3 was something I would also consider, because then some knight jumps could lead into winning a rook.
But he played rook d6, which did look a little bit mysterious.
It is mysterious.
Maybe he wants to double up the rooks on the d file.
This is now an extremely difficult position.
Yeah.
This is now extremely hard, in my opinion.
15 seconds also for Hans. Rook d5.
Whoa. This, what is happening?
Yeah, I think this might be going wrong for Hans Niemann here.
Yeah, Hans made a mistake somewhere. I feel like this is not something you could have, you wanted to achieve from the position that you had, but
yeah.
Okay, we're still fighting. Now white is in a driving seat, or driver's seat. Knight d4, yeah.
Dubov is a pawn up, but pretty solid pawn up.
Yeah, g4 also looks very nice. And both extremely low on time right now. Can
he take on d5 now?
He didn't want to risk it. Queen b7 maybe was something that he didn't want to get. But he didn't need to, because he's pawn up, and he just will slowly, I think, transpose this endgame.
Yeah, Black just cannot do anything here. Hans is waiting with the king. And rook e5, the pressure is increasing.
Yeah, this is extremely low on time, and he doesn't...
h4?
Oh, did you see DANIIL shake his head?
Yeah.
He just blundered it. Oh, this is... okay, so both very tired now after so many games. Blunders are happening.
Still 2 seconds for Hans. f6. Wow, this is still so difficult for Black to hold. The king is
hard.
Wow, 1 second.
Oh, where is the checkmate?
Can g6. King h8 take. Oh, this cannot be good. And yeah, queen h5 is going to come.
Yeah, and queen h5.
And rook h6.
Yeah.
And Hans resigns. What a match so far. Are we now on 4-4? No, there have been 9 games. So who is leading? Could you remind us, Laura?
Well, that's a very good question. So wait, this is game 9. So this was the last game. Felix, it went by so fast. But yeah, so it's 5 against 4 for DANIIL Dubov. DANIIL has won his last game today.
Yeah.
Again, white pieces dominating. 8 out of 9 games were won by white pieces, which is insane score. I cannot believe it, but it happens. And DANIIL leading with 5 versus 4. So very, very close and very exciting match so far.
Yeah, cannot add anything to that. So 5-4 for DANIIL Dubov, who was able to win his last 3 games. And I just love the way DANIIL especially has been playing those opening sacrifices, which we always see in the Catalan. Like in all of the games, you just see things which you don't expect. And that's what we love to see.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm so glad that we are doing this commentary and this analysis on ENDGAME.AI, because we can also analyze the game right after, or even during the game, or now after it finished. I would actually love to check what happened here.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I'm also just getting familiar with the whole UI of the website. As we all know, it has just launched. It's brand new. And so far, I think both of us have been pretty happy with the overall design. It's something completely new and something for everyone to check out. As you've mentioned, you have full access to all of the games here, which are played. You can even analyze them with an engine. Yeah. And
you want to go through the game just very briefly, just to see where Hans went wrong, or maybe he never went wrong. Maybe white was just always in a driver's seat.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you that. What happened in this last game? Because we were thinking that Hans probably had a comfortable position at some point.
Yeah, but even, after rook a5, where we were shocked, like the coordination of the pieces just seemed off for white. Engine likes it. 0.5 for white.
Wow, but rook a5 was probably a very important move there.
Yeah. Just to defend this knight on e5, this looked like it could be lost any second. However, just DANIIL played an amazing chess.
Yeah.
Of course, some drama up and down, some moves could have been better, but Hans was actually never better in this game.
It's also surprising for me to see. It looks like DANIIL just won a very clean game here.
Yeah, even the h4 blunder was not so bad. Even after that, white is clearly better. So very impressive. Honestly, I am very impressed because I really thought Hans had a great position. In fact,
me too. It did look like Hans was taking over, but...
Yeah, the opening again, b3 was actually a very good move by white. And then also... b4 maybe was not the best move, but Hans played f5, and that was actually a great idea by Black, and we thought this is going to change everything, but wow, I'm shocked. Catalan seems to be standing well for DANIIL especially.
Exactly. I'm especially curious how the players are now going to react after the day today. I'm sure both of them going to prepare seriously for the matchup tomorrow. Yeah. And now they do have even more information about what the opponent is trying to play. And I just can't wait to see what the players are digging out of their opening treasury chest and are going to show us tomorrow. what do you have planned?
Yeah, that's a very good point. I mean, if we remember the last match, actually, they kept the same openings. So Italian, some Sicilian there and there, but mostly also Catalan. So yes, I'm very excited for tomorrow's match. Like last 9 games, the score is so tight, 4-5 for Dubov. Just so glad to be doing this with you, Felix.
Yeah, me too. It was super exciting. I mean, all of the games just had so many surprises, and just following this Blitz matchup and being able to comment it is really a pleasure. And can't wait for tomorrow. Do you have any predictions? What are we going to see? Do you have a favorite already now?
No, it's impossible. Honestly, both of them are playing extremely dynamic chess, which is my favorite, just drama, long castle, short castle, openings exploding. I love the Catalan opening. I think it's my favorite. So I do prefer, when Dubov wins it. However, it's just because I love the Catalan and I'm not a big E4 player, but that's my personal preference. How about you?
Yeah, I also love seeing the Catalan. It's also an opening which I play quite often myself. So it's just amazing to see both of the players always sticking to their opening. DANIIL always sticking to the Catalan, and HANS always showing his ideas in the Italian. So players are really confident with their openings, which they are playing with white, and also for a good reason, because they are scoring like crazy with the white pieces in this tournament.
Exactly. Both of them prepared so well with white pieces, so both of them need some improvement. With the black pieces, of course, it's a struggle because the openings that they prepare are just so dynamic. So in 3 minutes, it's hard to actually find the best move for black pieces. And that's the reason why they score so well. But like you said, Felix, anybody can be a winner tomorrow. And it really went by so fast. Blitz is the best format for the viewers. I hope everybody also enjoyed it as much as we did.
Yeah, I certainly hope so as well. So about tomorrow, it's going to be at the same time like today, 6 p.m. Moscow time. Again, I have the pleasure to be commenting with you. Really looking forward to that. So I hope to see all of the viewers once again at that broadcast again. And I do think we can sign off the live stream. So once again, definitely check out the new website, which just came out, launched by Hans Niemann, ENDGAME.AI, where you can go through all of the games, analyze them there as well. There is a waiting list to join as well. Only 10,000 people are getting accepted at the moment. So definitely don't miss out on that. And yeah, Laura, any finishing words to our viewers?
Yeah, I think you perfectly captured everything. I just want to thank everybody for watching, for being part of this. And I hope we will see you all tomorrow only on ENDGAME.AI.
Exactly.
So thank you very much.
Thank you.